I'm Doug Ludke with 21st Century Equipment, and today we're going to spend some time with the MaxEmerge corn planter, its component location, and maintenance and repair. So if you come with me, we'll start up here at the hitch. Today we're going to be working with the 1770 NT planter. This is a 2-point planter, which uses the 3-point hitch and the lower 2 points. You can also get this planter in a single-point configuration that will hook to the drawbar. Another style of planter that we won't look at today is a mounted planter, which will use the 3-point hitch and all 3 points of hitching. So we'll go ahead now and we'll start with hooking up this planter to the tractor. We have a series of hydraulic hoses here that hook to our hydraulic banks on the back of the tractor. The upper 4 banks are the selective controls. The lower banks are our return and our constant pressure. We also have our power cord and our monitor and function control cord. We move to the back of the planter. The first thing that we come to is the transport lock. And on a fold style planter, it's very important that we remove this lock before we try to unfold. This particular style is a mechanical style. It requires the removing of this pin and then the loosening of this bolt and then moving the transport lock out of the way. Once that's done, we're prepared to unfold this planter. After you have unfolded the planter, we will then look at the marker arms. Not all planters have marker arms today. Due to the fact that we use auto track and auto steer, markers have become obsolete. But some farmers don't have that, so we still do have the marker arm option. Next, we'll move to the vacuum manifold. The manifold runs the full length of the planter. On the front side of the manifold, there are individual row unit hoses that supply vacuum to each one of our vacuum meters. This is a good place to stop and talk about the Hex Drive for the seed meters. What I want to point out is the dog-eared drive, and that it is in perfect alignment when it is unfolded with the other dog-eared drive. It's really important to make sure that these drives run smoothly. As we move on back, we come to the fold cylinders. Also, we have our control wedge box. This is the brain box where all the seed monitoring happens. Mounted underneath the wedge box on the wedge box frame are the vacuum sensors. As we move farther back on the planter, we come to the marker sequencing valve. The purpose of this valve is to sequence our markers from left to right every time we raise and lower the planter. Also, we have the planter frame control valve. The purpose of this valve is to change from plant mode to transport mode. Now we'll move to the fertilizer tanks. This planter is equipped with frame-mounted fertilizer tanks. As we come down out of the tank through the valves, we have the fertilizer screen filter. It's important that we keep this filter clean. We have the shut-off valve from the tank and the manifold shut off so we can clean that filter. We follow this hose right on around to the fill manifold. The fill manifold has a hose that runs to the front of the planter. That gives us remote access to fill the fertilizer from that point. Or, if we do not have tanks on the planter, this would be the fertilizer supply line from the tanks on the tractor. That then leads us to the fertilizer distribution manifold. This manifold distributes fertilizer to each of our individual rows. It also is the place that the fertilizer pressure sensor is housed. As we move to the back of the planter now, I'd like to spend a little more time talking about the vacuum manifold. This is the vacuum bell. When we unfold this planter, this is what connects the front part of the manifold to the rear part. This planter is a dual vacuum system, so it does have 2 vacuum manifolds and 2 vacuum blowers. This blower is what supplies vacuum to the vacuum system. I want to take just a minute now to talk about the planter lift arm rock shaft. This is an important component of our planter. This planter has 8 rock shafts on it, and they help to keep the planter level from left to right. These 2 points here are our grease lubrication points. They are also a wear point. And as these wear, they wear unevenly, which can list our planter from left to right. Also, an important component in keeping our planter level is to make sure we check our tire air pressure. All those tires need to be inflated to the same exact air pressure. We'll now move to the seed transmission. This is a chain-driven manual seed transmission by using these upper gears and lower gears, and this chart we can determine our seed rate. Because it is driven by chains, it's important to keep these chains lubricated and limber so they move freely. As the power moves through this transmission, it then drives our Hex Drive that I pointed out earlier to each of our row units. This small drive tire at the bottom of the transmission, when the planter is lowered, comes in contact with the ground drive tire, in turn driving the transmission. This is the fertilizer pump. It is driven exactly the same way as the seed transmission by a small tire that comes in contact with the ground drive tire. This is a positive displacement pump, and we change that displacement by changing the orientation of this eccentric on the drive gear. It is important for supplying our pressure through this hose to our fertilizer manifold. All right, as we move around to the left side of the planter, I want to talk a little bit about the downforce system. This has a pneumatic downforce system which uses a series of airbags on each of the row units. These airbags are supplied air pressure by this air compressor, and we do so with a gauge mounted on here, and we raise it to a certain pressure, and then that keeps consistent pressure across our planter in these airbags. This concludes the walk around and component location of the 1770 NT planter. For model specific planters, please refer to your John Deere manual.